Hey everyone, it's Jeff Risdon from the Detroit Lions podcast and Lionswire, and we're going to talk about some things that are going on in Lions land. There's a lot to talk about, so sit back, relax, and let's go. We have a 4-1 Detroit Lions team that's heading to Minnesota this week to play the unbeaten Vikings. Massive game, huge NFC playoff implications, could just very well help decide home field advantage throughout the playoffs, but we'll leave that in a little bit. But we got some other things to talk about first. And there's a bunch of things. There's any number of things that we can go. We're going to start with the contract extensions that have been given up, and it's plural. And that's pretty cool. Started with David Montgomery over the weekend. Lions running back is getting, I wrote this down here. Can't refer to those sometimes. 2 years, $18.25 million in his extension. $12.5 million of that is guaranteed. It locks up the backfield through 2027. That's important because one of the things that this does, and first off, Montgomery's fantastic. He's a great player. He showed it again Sunday in the whipping of the Cowboys, which was so much fun. God, that was nice. And Montgomery has been, such a spearhead and catalyst for everything. The veteran presence, the hard runner, stonewalling people in pass protection. He's doing fantastic. And what I like about this is the timing of it and how it syncs up with where the rest of the offense is. Now you've got him paid a big payday. Might not sound like a lot in relative comparison to some other extensions that are out, and the one that we're going to talk about with Alim McNeill here in a minute. It's kind of a pittance, but that's the market for running backs. Mamas don't let your babies grow up to be running backs. You don't get paid. Obviously, $18.25 million is more money than I will ever conceive of in a lifetime. But for an NFL player, that's kind of low end for a really good NFL player like David Montgomery is. That's just the way that the market exists. But this is his big payday. It's his last big payday. He knows that. That's why he took it. Now he will be up at the same time that Jahmyr Gibbs is getting a new contract or looking for a new contract, depending on how the Lions handle that. But 2026 is probably when Gibbs will get a new deal. So you've got your tandem locked up. And now, because you've paid Montgomery the money now, when you go to pay Gibbs, Monty's more likely to stay because he's not going to be looking for that last giant paycheck because he's gotten one. That's important. At his age, if you're going to give him another contract after this, it's going to be one of those 1 year, please stay healthy, please stay effective deals. It's not going to be $9 million a year. It's going to be like a 1 year, $3.5-4 million deal with low guarantees on it. That's sort of the way that the running back market works. So then you can pay Jahmyr Gibbs the fair market deal or even above fair market deal if that's what it takes to keep him, if that's what he really wants. And he's well on his way to earning it. He's a very dynamic player. I always say that right now Montgomery's probably the better back, but that's like splitting the difference between an A- and a B+. It's really, really close, and they're so much better together. And the Lions know that. They used them that way. And I think that's I like the strategic timing of this, whether they intended it or not. I think it works out great. So that, again, Monty locked up. You got your backfield with Monty, Gibbs, and Goff. They're all locked in. Vaki as a rookie, he's under contract through that time too. We'll see what happens. He just got his first carry this past weekend. It was nice to see him get in on offense. So then I'm recording this on Wednesday. So last night they signed Alim McNeill. As I'm in the car, of course, it's how the bigger things go. But Alim McNeill, defensive tackle, just got paid. Good for Alim. So the numbers: $55 million guaranteed, and that's sort of the important number here. It's $97 million total over 4 years, which extends him through the 2028 season. This is the last of the young building blocks that were taken in the early part of Brad Holmes' tenure. The first year. What a draft, by the way. If you want to argue that Levi Onwuzurike belongs in that group and deserves an extension, I won't fight you on that, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to this kind of money. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't have a lean on that. I hope they keep him. I think he's been great this year. It's been fun to watch, but yeah, that's a conversation we're going to have a little bit later because I don't think they're giving out any more extensions. So who knows? We'll see. This one was... The Alim extension is weird because we sort of knew that it was coming. We just didn't really know when. And the timing of it coming on the heels of his best game of the season and also losing Aidan Hutchinson, it raised some eyebrows a little bit. I get that. Raised mine too. It's a great market value extension for Alim, and it goes directly into Dan Campbell. When he talked about, he did an interview with Costa and Jensen on 97.1 The Ticket on Tuesday. And when he was asked about who's going to replace Hutchinson, the first name he mentioned and the first guy that he talked about, and he talked about him for a little bit, was Alim McNeill. Tells you what the team thinks about him. Tells you what the head coach has expectations. They see him as a real difference maker. I know not every Lions fan does. You're probably going to have to get on board with that or else you're going to be unhappy with it because the way he absolutely annihilated a very good, very elite offensive lineman in Zach Martin. And by the way, a pretty darn good rookie in Cooper Beebe, a guy who I loved and I know a lot of Lions fans really wanted to draft in the second round. But he's played well. He did not play well against Alim McNeill on Sunday. That was one of the issues that the Cowboys had there. It's a little on the pricier side than I think what a lot of people expected, but I look at it this way. I put this out on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it this morning. You can pay him $55 million guaranteed now, or he can go off and finish the year with 8.5 sacks and 12 tackles for losses, and that price tag goes up to $65 million. It's your choice. Getting ahead of the market and locking him in, I think, is a smart move. There is a little bit of a risk involved in case he gets injured, in case he, for whatever reason, doesn't pan out, it just doesn't work. But that's not who Alim's been. Like this is a guy who's gotten steadily better all the time, and he's healthy. He is going at it. He is working better in concert with Levi and with DJ Reader next to him. Reader, I don't think gets enough credit for what he does because it never shows up on the stat sheet, but he's playing really good football, and Alim is playing off that, and I think it's working really well. So that's the fun part of the extensions. Lions locking up their core. Look, they've paid Panay, they've paid Saint, they've paid Goff, they paid Decker. Now they've paid Alim and Montgomery. Like, this is our team. It's a great team that can go win the Super Bowl this year still. And the fact that they are making the commitment to the players that are here, that shows that they're believers in what they talk about. They believe in their culture. They believe in the guys that are here, and they're going to reward that. And it's a great message for younger players like Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Jameson Williams, Aidan Hutchinson. If you're good here, you're going to play here and you're going to be rewarded here. You don't have to look elsewhere for that money. Stay as part of a core where you know your role, you know you're valued, you know your coaches love you, you know your coaches appreciate you, you know your teammates have your back. That's important. Look at what's going on with the Raiders, which we'll probably have to get to in a little bit when we're talking about Hutch. But look at what's going on in Cleveland. Like there's other Dallas. Good Lord. It was so much fun to blast Dallas on Jerry Jones' birthday. 82nd birthday, and we gave him middle fingers up the ass. It was great. That was one of the most fun days I've ever had as a Lions fan, going back to the Billy Sims era. I can't remember beating a good team or a perceived good team. I do think the Dallas Cowboys, look, they're missing Micah Parsons, they're missing DeMarcus Lawrence. They were, obviously banged up and not at full strength, but the Lions, no freaking mercy in that Tojo, baby. They rolled them. 9 straight scoring drives to take out the play at the end of the first half where they just kneeled down. 9 for 9 on scoring. It led to Jake Bates scoring 17 points. He kicked 4 field goals and 5 extra points. That's more than Matt Prater has ever scored in a game. That's the most since Jason Hansen scored, I believe it was 19 in 1999. So great day for Jake Bates. Great confidence builder for him. A couple of those kicks were a little close shave, but they went in. That's great. This is when you want to build your kicker's confidence. There's so many good things that came out of this game. I love it. It was great. God, that was fun. Man, watching Jerry Jones yesterday just rip apart radio analysts because he's so frustrated at how bad he's created his team and how far behind the Lions they are. Think about that for a minute. When was the last time that the Detroit Lions were perceived as a better organization than the Dallas Cowboys? Even with all the Jerry BS that goes on. Like, they've always been perceived nationally, rightly or wrongly, as a well-run organization, as a successful organization. Now people are saying that about Detroit, and it's true. And go back to the contract extensions that they've locked up all this year. The Lions are doing everything right. Dallas is not. And you're seeing the difference in ownership. You're seeing the difference in having a competent head coach, a great front office, one that understands that the people are important too. And treating people right and treating people with respect and fairness matters. It matters a lot in the NFL. Don't kid yourself. Lions are doing that, and they're doing it right. And that makes me very proud to cover this organization. I have covered some other organizations that don't do that very well. And we'll get into that. Take a little break here, and then we'll get back and we'll talk about Dallas, and we'll talk about replacing Aidan Hutchinson. All right. Now we got to hit it. Aidan Hutchinson. It sucks. That injury was nasty. I unfortunately went back and viewed it like right after it happened. I rewound, and I don't do pain. I'm kind of squeamish, so that was rough to watch. And seeing the reaction from the teams, both teams, tells you how momentous this injury is, and losing Aidan Hutchinson for the season. And look, I know there's this hope out there that he'd be back for the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't doubt that he tries, but I'm not going to expect it. If it happens, if that scenario plays out where the Lions are in the Super Bowl and Aidan Hutchinson can come back and give them anything, hell yeah, man, sign me up. But I'm not expecting that. I don't do fantasy very well, which you'll probably find is a recurring theme as we go through how the Lions are going to replace him. And I know there's pie in the sky things out there. Go get Max Crosby. Go get Myles Garrett. Go get Hassan Reddick. That's just not based in any reality. Reddick, okay. All right, Reddick is available. The Jets have made it known that he is available. Why is he available? Because he's been a petulant ass. That sounds like a guy that the Lions want in their locker room. Guy who's held out because he wants more money and doesn't like the coach, doesn't like the situation that he's in. That sounds like a Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell kind of guy to you. Played his way out of a good situation in Philadelphia because he didn't like sharing the credit, didn't like sharing his spotlight. Like, this is where the trade-off comes, where Hassan Reddick's not a turd. He didn't qualify for that. By all accounts, he's a good dude. Pretty good player, too. But culture fit matters so much to this team. That's the fundamental tenet of why they're successful, because they've got their guys that they know they can trust, that know that one another, they're all playing for something greater. Son Reddick hasn't shown he's that kind of guy. Now, maybe if he comes in here, maybe the culture will absorb and wrap around him, and that'd be great. He's a good player. He'd fit, but I don't know about that one. I don't know if he'd fit schematically and personality-wise. I don't expect that. I can't rule it out, but it would be a stretch to say that he's coming in. Max Crosby, y'all got to give that up, man. He ain't going anywhere. He's told you that. Aside from the exorbitant price tag that it would take, and this is something that came up in our Patreon Slack this morning, which, by the way, is worth every penny that you spend for it to get Lions talk behind the scenes and everything. The Raiders don't know that they're the Raiders. They don't know that they suck. They think they're still contenders. They do. As delusional as you might find that. Their owner, by the way, they added Tom Brady as an co-owner today, which is a very weird situation that I gotta process that one yet before I think about it. But this is an owner who thinks that haircut works. He thinks his hot young girlfriend is there because he's good looking, because he's a great guy, not because he's got $1 billion. Well, he doesn't actually have that. They're cash poor. I know they sold off Davante Adams to the Jets. Davante was never going to play there again. He was milking that hamstring injury for all that it was worth. And it was clear that he didn't want to be there anymore. Max Crosby's done the exact opposite. Like, he said it in an interview, I believe it was last week, where he showed off the Raider tattoo. Like, he's proud to be there. He wants to stay there. If he doesn't want out, they're not getting rid of him. Doesn't matter what the Lions offer. They still think they're good. I know they're bad. You know they're bad. They don't know that. It's sort of like when the Lions were going through the middle of the Matt Patricia era, and it was pretty clear to everybody that he sucked as a coach, that he was sucking the life and the will to live out of every Lions fan, and, by the way, Lions players. The Lions didn't know that. That's why they kept him for as long as they did. They were deluded. They were ignorant. They finally got rid of him. They finally pulled the plug, and we're all better for that. But it took time. It's where the Raiders are at. They're not there yet. They just don't have that realization. Talk about Cleveland for a second. A team that I know very well. Myles Garrett, not going to happen. Would be phenomenal. I don't make any apologies about it. Myles Garrett is my favorite player in the NFL. I love the guy. Watching him do a 50-inch box jump, by the way, barefoot, with a 55-pound dumbbell in each hand at 275 pounds, unfreaking real. When I ran Brownswire, I used to just post videos of his workouts, and people would like watch that. Like, it's incredible. He's the reigning defensive player of the year. He's got a shot at getting it again now that Hutch is out. Even though he's playing injured, he's at about 75% of his capacity and still kicking ass. He's perfect in that Jim Schwartz defense. He'd be perfect in Detroit's defense. But you got to look at the organization as a whole again. The Browns are a freaking mess. It starts at the top. What else is going on? Their ownership is desperately trying to sell their beleaguered fan base that hates their quarterback, is not real fond of their coach anymore, doesn't particularly like their GM anymore because he keeps missing on just about every draft pick he's had. They're trying to build a new stadium, and it's not a popular proposal because they're trying to build it outside of town. They want to move from the downtown Cleveland area out to the Cleveland airport. Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb, they are the most popular Browns players. And The Browns organization desperately needs people to believe in them and believe that there's still some hope and reason to care about this team and reason to support them as they try their move out to Brook Park. You get rid of Myles Garrett, any remaining goodwill that's there with any of the fans, including many that are in my immediate family that I spent time with last week, is freaking gone, man. Like that, it can't happen. It just can't. Zadarius Smith, okay, maybe. If they continue to lose, and I expect that they will, their offense is so bad they just traded Amari Cooper, who really, really wanted out and really, really, really wanted away from Deshaun Watson. He's not the only one. Oh my, yeah. That's just a mess. Maybe Zadarius Smith is available in a couple of weeks. He'd fit. Solid role player. And that's where I want to get this. And I want to read the quote from Dan Campbell, because he was on with Jim Costa, my good old friend, and former Michigan Broadcasting Award-winning show that we used to do. He and Jansen had him on. And this is what Dan Campbell said about replacing Hutch. And I'm going to read this here. It's going to take everybody on that defense to elevate a little bit, do a little bit more, and we'll be just fine. And this was after he was talking about Mac, Alim McNeill, Levi Onwuzurike. He brought up, in order, Josh Paschal, DJ Reader, Mitchell Agude, Isaac Ukwu, Al-Qadim Muhammad, Cam Gill, and James Houston. 4 of those guys are on the practice squad. Agude, Ukwu, Muhammad, and Gill, although I would expect that one of them gets signed this week. Probably Ukwu, because he played pretty darn well in Dallas. Nice NFL debut for him. Got better as the game went on. Showed some athleticism, showed some knowledge of how to play against an offensive line that is different from what he sees in practice, which was kind of nice. So then Campbell was asked about what type of player from the outside of the organization the Lions might be looking at to help replace Hutchinson's production. And this is Dan's quote. Honestly, I think if anything, you're looking for a role player. Somebody that can set an edge, that can transition into a rush. It doesn't have to be somebody, as you guys know, elite rushers and edge setters don't just fall off trees. And if they do, you're going to have to sell the farm to get them. But I do think there could be some guys out there that fit into what we're doing defensively. They can serve a role. They can help. End quote. All right. He said that before the team signed Isaiah Thomas yesterday. Isaiah Thomas is a player I know him from Cleveland. I covered him. The last year I covered the Browns was 2022. He was there in their training camp. I saw him in person. Played okay. He's a 7th-round pick from Oklahoma. He is the size parameter that they want in Detroit. He's 6'5", 265. Probably a little heavier than that now, from my understanding from what I talked to with Bengals people. It probably was up to about 272, which is even better. This is your potential Marcus Davenport replacement in terms of a guy who can set an edge. He's not nearly as technically polished as Davenport. He got 1 sack in 10 games as a rookie in Cleveland. Plays with a lot of energy, plays with a lot of wasted energy. The way I equate it, I remember him going back into Oklahoma and also seeing him at the Senior Bowl. He's very, very active with his hands, but he doesn't always know what to do with them. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of superfluous energy waste motion with him. Hopefully they can harness that in. I will say the Browns kind of surprised some people when they let him go this offseason because he played very well in the preseason. He's worth a shot. He's worth a look. And this is the type of role player that Dan Campbell's talking about. A guy who can come in and maybe give you 12 to 20 snaps, play the run on the way to the quarterback. We'll see how he does on that. That was not necessarily his forte in his prior stops or at Oklahoma for that matter. But it's worthwhile to see what he can do as a young player who fits the athletic profile that they want. Very good athlete. That's the kind of guy you're looking at. That Dan Campbell just told you what he wants, what the team wants. They want a role player. They want a guy who can set an edge and then go get the quarterback in that order. Listen to them. Listen to your coach. Listen to your GM. Have they lied to you before? Have they deceived you before? Enough with the crazy, outlandish trade things. That's not going to happen. Trey Hendrickson is another one to bring up from the Bengals, where Isaiah Thomas just came from. The Bengals think they're going to win the Super Bowl. Again, it's delusional as hell. They don't know that. They don't know they're not good. And by the way, in the AFC, if they beat Cleveland this weekend, and they should, there's potential if a couple other games fall. They're in the playoffs at 3-4. Like they would be, if the season ended today, do that thing, they'd be in the playoffs. Like the AFC is so bad beyond Kansas City at the top. And, you can throw Houston and Baltimore are pretty solid most of the time, but not elite. Pittsburgh, a little bit of a tier below that. And then there's everybody else. Like, there's no reason to think that any team other than the Browns can make the playoffs, and maybe the Jaguars, although the Jaguars still seem fairly delusional that they're going to make it, although they did trade off one of their assets to Seattle this week. There's talk. I know there's some Lions fans out there. Go get Josh Hines-Allen. Go get Trayvon Walker. Jacksonville isn't at that point yet either. Maybe they'll get there in a couple weeks if they lose a couple more. I don't know. They're not there now. And until that happens, it's a fantasy. Look, I like fantasy world. I put it in the Slack. I would love, like, my dream fantasy is to wrestle with Julianne Moore in a vat of vanilla pudding on stage at an Iron Maiden concert. I would kill to have that fantasy come true. But it ain't. It's just not. It's not realistic. That's what these trade offers are. They are, being on stage in a vat of pudding at an Iron Maiden concert. It's got to be vanilla pudding, though. Like, it's weird. So that's where we are in replacing Hutch. Expect more from Isaac Ukwu, who I thought played pretty well. I will have a film study review on him up at Lionswire, probably before you watch this, because I'm going to send this in. There's a little bit of time that it takes to produce this, and I'm halfway done with writing the article already. For those who still hold out hope for James Houston, this is your crap or get off the pot moment for James Houston. If he's a healthy scratch again after Hutch is out, after Barnes at Sam is out, after Davenport's gone, it's probably time to give up that ghost. It's unfortunate, but it's pretty clear the team doesn't see him as an answer. And the way that he's been sort of an afterthought at all the mentions, like Dan Campbell brought up 4 practice squad guys before he got to James Houston as a potential solution. In the aftermath of the game was sort of the same way. In fact, he or it wasn't the after. It was the press conference that he gave on Monday, and it was like, oh yeah, that James Houston guy's still here for now. That's sort of the way you need to perceive that. But I'm encouraged by Ukwu. I'm curious to what he can do more. I liked Mitchell Agude a lot this summer. I thought he deserved to make the team. We'll see what he can do if he gets called up. I kind of suspect he will this week. Let's go to replacing Derek Barnes real fast. Trevor Nowatzki played well in Detroit. He also played pretty well in a very small role in Seattle. He's got the athleticism. He's got the instincts. He's got to get more comfortable playing with who's around him. And that's a young player issue. Not always confident in his reads, not always sure that, okay, well, the tight end's running this way and Jack's like over there and he's maybe looking at that tight, like there's little things like that he's got to work out. Experience will help with that. Excuse me. I was encouraged by what I saw from Nowatzki as well. So there's some hope there. Could get Iffy Melifonwu back at some point this season. He can help with blitzing. He did that very well at the end of last year. He's on injured reserve right now. Will miss at least the next 3 games, but there's hope that they can do more schematic blitzing and more thunting, more twisting, more gimmicky stuff. 5-man lines, 6-man lines, 3-man lines. Let's confuse them. Aaron Glenn has shown. I know people don't like Aaron Glenn. You should, because he's doing great this year. He got the second year that he wanted and is playing very well. Lions have the 8th best scoring defense in the league. They are number 1 against defending the run against running backs. Pretty good. Some good things that are happening on this defense. They have forced the highest percentage of tight throw windows by opposing quarterbacks by a significant amount. They're at over 27%. The next best team is the Ravens at 22%. Yeah, they give up big plays. That's every team does. Every team does. I have some faith that Aaron Glenn's going to be able to scheme some things out. Look, Matt Patricia schemed up a pass rush, believe it or not. He didn't have very good players doing it because he liked slow big guys. You can scheme a pass rush. That's actually one of the easiest things to do as a defense. It's harder to tackle in space. It's harder to come up with a coverage scheme that fits your personnel. As we all know about AG. Now that he's got the personnel that fits what he wants, he's able to do what he wants, and it's working pretty well. The playmakers at the back end, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph matching Ed Reed. Ed freaking Reed, for my money, the best defensive player of the 21st century. Kirby Joseph just did something that nobody besides Ed Reed has done, intercepting at least 4 passes in each of his first 3 seasons. I'm not saying he's Ed Reed. Nobody is. The guy's incredible. One of my all-time favorite players. He played for a team that I don't particularly care for. That tells you the level of respect I have for Ed Reed. Getting it done. You change the focus a little bit where you're not relying on the pass rush as much to create the havoc because you can cover. Terry and Arnold playing very well. Still a little handsy. Got to clean that up. He's working on it. Carlton Davis had a whale of a game guarding CeeDee Lamb. Played very well in that game. Cowboys couldn't get open. Some of that's the pass rush. You saw Alim McNeill have a devastating day. It was great. Hutch getting injured on that sack play. Like after that went out, they were still able to get some pressure. There will be better offensive lines than Dallas's. We could play one this week in Minnesota. And that's where we'll go. I don't like this matchup. I don't like that Minnesota's coming off a bye. They're at home. They are looking for a pelt on the wall. I spent last week, the bye week, I was in Minnesota. I was in Duluth, Minnesota with my family, celebrating the life of my late Uncle Ken. Cheers to Ken. If you are a martini drinker, drink one in his honor, please. He was a very interesting man. Probably wouldn't know the first thing about football. He wasn't a sports guy. But in talking with a lot of the people that knew him, they found out what I did for a living and they wanted to talk football. And so we did. And the Vikings they're hungry to show that they're not a fluke at 5-0. I don't think they are a fluke either. I still wonder how long that defense is going to be able to cobble it together, but right now they look great. They've had time to survey the Lions coming off of a bye week. They get extra time to prepare for Ben Johnson's freakishly, creatively awesome offense. Brian Flores is getting it done right now, so I don't like this matchup this week. I think the Lions are going to lose this one. Sorry, got to call it the way I see it. I think the Lions can win if they can go in and outscore them. Goff's going to have to be close to perfect. Now, the good thing is, he has been. Last 2 weeks, he's been phenomenal. I don't think that the Vikings can cover St. Brown and Laporta. Gibbs out of the backfield. J-Mo going deep. By the way, that pass to J-Mo. Yeah, buddy, that was nice. So I'm not saying that the Lions don't have a chance. They can go in and absolutely win this game. But I think the Vikings are favored for good reason in this one. It's going to be a tough one. And I do think I think it's going to be a great game. And I'm happy that it's getting the run that it is nationally. Kind of surprised that they didn't flex it, but I guess they can't flex games yet. Oh, well. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great game. Should be a good test for how the Lions are going to approach life without Hutch and Davenport and Barnes. And they lost their 3 best pass rushers almost in consecutive weeks. That's tough to overcome. There's a lot of talent on this team. They can go out and they can get it done. Hope it happens. Hope the defense confuses Sam Darnold. But, man, they got playmakers. Addison's great. Jefferson's phenomenal. Aaron Jones looks like he's going to be healthy. They do have a good offensive line. And their defense, the way that they confuse things, and having that extra time, that it leads me to predict that the Vikings are going to win this game. But that's not the end of the world for the Lions. This is still a great team, as I wrote earlier this week at Lionswire. Just because they lost Aidan Hutchinson, they can still win this Super Bowl with the team they've got. I absolutely believe that. I hope you do too. Would be great if they got somebody else that came in, but as Dan Campbell has said, as Brad Holmes has told you repeatedly, that's not how they do business. So have faith in your team. Enjoy this run. Savor that Dallas win as much as you can. I know it's a Pyrrhic victory, with Hutch going down, but damn, man, that was fun. Made it great to be a Lions fan. It's still a great time to be a Lions fan. With that, peace out. Thanks for watching.